Keynote, learning how to control the narrative of your career, how to seek support, establish boundaries, how to look within to constantly evolve, adapt, and find your inner zen. Our next speaker, Smruti Patel, who just joined us now, head of engineering at Stripe, is going to share more, especially her lessons, mistakes, hopes, and dreams. She has quite an intensive experience. She led multiple teams prior to her role at Stripe at VMware, including backups and disaster recovery. Her interests include mentoring and coaching, hiking with her boys, and traveling. We are super excited to have you with us today, Smruti. You're muted. Just unmute yourself. We will be able to hear you.
Can everybody hear me? Sorry about that.
Yes. We can hear you. Welcome. It's great to hear you. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much for the very warm welcome. It has been inspiring to see all the previous speakers. So I'm going to kick it off. Karmanye badhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. This is a shloka in Sanskrit from the Bhagavad Gita, which roughly translates to, do your actions, but don't expect to control the results. And that is the act one of my career, which can effectively be summarized with this underlying principle. Hey, everybody, I am Smruti Patel, a mother to 2 boys, aged 6 and 3, a wife to a very supportive partner, a daughter to humble, idealistic parents. I'm an engineer, a manager, and a leader. And I am more than the sum of all my roles. I'm a very independent person, and I've always been so. I grew up in Mumbai, was very fortunate to be raised by parents who taught their 2 daughters that if we worked hard and didn't take any shortcuts to success, the sky was the limit. I loved STEM from the very beginning. I loved solving puzzles, asking questions, being curious about the why, and so I made the choice to pursue computer engineering. After my bachelor's degree, I did the logical thing of applying what I had studied. So I secured my first job at Patni. This back then was a consultancy firm which specialized in outsourced projects. A few quarters in, my biggest takeaway from that experience was that I didn't want to work at a consultancy firm in India, especially as a new software engineer. I wasn't challenged about the shape of the problems I was solving, and so I decided to study further. I decided to pursue a master's in computer science, packed my 2 bags, left my home country, India, and arrived at Stony Brook, New York. Pursued my master's, post-master's, I had a few offers in the financial world from the Citis and the Goldman Sachs. But I came to Palo Alto in California for an interview with VMware, which back then was at the helm of virtualization. It was December, and New York was New York, as is in winter. But California warmed me with blue skies, white fluffy clouds, rolling meadows, and even horses. It felt like a paradise on earth. And believe it or not, my 20-year-old self decided to move for that. At VMware, I worked as an automation engineer on the hypervisor, then the vSphere control plane, which would manage the infrastructure. And it was in those first years of studying systems that I had 2 important realizations. First, that I loved engineering. I loved diagnosing distributed systems, how it worked, and then solving those ambiguous problems. Also, I enjoyed an environment which provided me with the autonomy and the space to explore. And for the very first time, I did start observing the utter lack of women around me. It would be routine for me to sit in a room full of men, questioning decisions they had made about systems they had built, all the while consistently leveraging objective, quantifiable, and verifiable data to achieve those shared outcomes. And in this phase, my biggest takeaways were 1, what makes me tick? And this is where I came across the theory of intrinsic motivation, which at the individual level talks about 3 things. Competence. This is the ability to apply your knowledge and skills to gain mastery over tasks that are important to us. Autonomy. This is choice and independence to pursue interesting work. And lastly, purpose. This is like, why does something matter? And so from then on, I started looking within, always. And the next was the importance of building trust to lead and influence without authority. Trust, as you can imagine, is the cornerstone of any relationship. So, being open and honest about decisions that have been made, being kind and direct with feedback, and then being consistent and accountable helped me build the relationships I needed with the core engineers and the managers I worked with. As a result, I helped ship high quality features which saved millions of dollars in disk usage and also enabled key distributed power management, saving energy for a lot of our VMware users. And I believe it was this ability to drive those shared outcomes which led my then manager to ask me to lead the team I was actually working on. And therein began my second act. VMware was very thoughtful in developing and growing the engineers. We had two tracks. One was the individual contributor track, and the second was the engineering manager. I was at that point already owning a lot of the day to day tasks around technical design decisions, partner stakeholder communication, mentoring junior engineers, and also defining the overall release strategy. So I had the choice whether to become a staff engineer or the EM. I decided to go with the latter. I thought I'd have more authority and autonomy in driving the broader product strategy. But looking back, I might have gone into management for the wrong reasons. However, I pretty soon realized that I stayed for the right ones, asking myself what gives me energy and finding that it was all about the people. Always. I just loved building teams, growing people, and seeing an excited, motivated set of people come together to make magic and solve those complex business problems. And I experienced how these autonomous teams could be like an orchestra performing in full rhythm and synchrony. The key here was knowing that you don't have to have and will often not have all the answers, and to be comfortable with that and lean into that. And then your singular job is to hire those most brilliant minds that you find around you with a complementary, diverse skill set and create and foster the right environment for that set of people to want to work together for mutually shared outcomes. And this is where I learned that people management isn't a nice to have, it is a must have for an engineering manager. And so I developed my career management philosophy for growing talent, which is all about driving clarity and transparency. And there's no cookie cutter approach to this. So, what I like to do is adopt the EAR framework. This is where you sit down in your regular one on ones and you understand what makes each person tick. Where are they in their respective careers and even in life? An engineer might just be happy solving different medium shaped problems and wants to keep doing that, versus a senior EM who might have a partner who's taken a back seat so they can flourish and hence wants to double down on the big wins. So you take those career aspirations and the team business goals and you anchor them around the org expectations for someone in that role. And this is where you want to align on those expectations and personal goals. So for senior engineers and managers, I ask them to write up a personal charter on what kind of impact they would like to drive for themselves, for their teams, and for their orgs. And lastly, reinforce. This is about how they're doing in terms of those expectations against the role and level that they are at. Most companies have a career framework, which is also called an engineering ladder sometimes. You use that as a rubric to anchor your conversations. And you want to do this by giving constant, timely, actionable, and specific feedback, such that at any point you are helping demystify where am I at, where am I going, how do I get there, and what do I need to do more or less of. By now, I'd also been acutely aware of the ratio significantly dropping from 30% of my bachelor's class being women to under 10% being in masters to under 5% at work. So I was determined to build diverse teams and create those inclusive environments. At that point, 80% of my team was diverse, and I wanted to keep that at the senior levels too. So a lot of my feedback would be around how to promote and normalize self-advocacy. Here you see the pie model, which talks about performance, image, and exposure. This model states how performance counts for only 10% of your success, image counts for 30%, and exposure counts for an unbelievable 60%. So, what this talks about is how you articulate your impact. You want to focus on what was enabled in terms of the metrics that you moved for the business versus what you actually got done. This is where you ask questions like what was the before and the after story for the work you delivered? What got better? What problem got eliminated? And why does it matter to the business? Here's where leveraging metrics, whether quantifiable or qualitative, can help to talk about that impact. And as you're doing so, build your brand. This is where you want to track all your ongoing accomplishments and impact in something called a brag doc, normalizing the ability to talk about your achievements. And then communicating that impact to the audience that matters in a medium that's most convenient for their consumption. And please do it timely. Remember, who's aware of and talking about your work makes a huge difference to your success. Let's take an example. You've completed a long running project and it's an important one. So ask your manager to signal boost your work to the broader organization. I personally, at that time, was doing great. I was shipping high quality releases faster than any manager around me. It was for a product which was the second largest revenue generating product for VMware. My team was well respected, and even my manager had glowing feedback for me. And yet, I was dissatisfied, both in the scope of my impact and the lack of access to broader opportunities. I hadn't cracked that E of exposure. So, therein I began my quest. I sought answers. I realized that I had hit what each of us have seen, felt, and experienced at different points in our career, the infamous glass ceiling. I was leading a project where I had accountability without authority, responsibility without sponsorship. And as a result, the overall execution velocity of the project that was very important to me had stalled. And I wasn't empowered to make the changes needed to turn that situation around. My competence, my autonomy, and my purpose were very threatened. As a result, I was dejected, demotivated, and felt powerless. Because until then, I had consistently been a straight A student. I'd worked hard, I'd made rational choices. And so it was a first. And I was stunned. I didn't know what to do. And the one thing I leaned into was switching from a fixed to a growth mindset. I took a good hard look at my strengths, areas of development, and I asked myself, what does taking control back look like? I had the privilege of choice thanks to healthy savings and a very supportive family. And I was extremely intentional about the culture I wanted to work in and the people I wanted to work with. So I interviewed at 3 companies and I shortlisted Stripe, based not only on the extremely intentional, thoughtful, and the empathetic interviewing process, but also the inherent humility, curiosity, and optimism I encountered in all the people I spoke to. However, it was a very different role. And after 7+ years of leading teams, it felt like taking a step back. I also had a 2-year-old at home, and starting afresh looked very hard. But I analyzed my career along 3 axes: role, domain, and social capital. At that time, I was a manager of managers, leading multiple teams, building data protection software at an enterprise company. And switching the role would mean I have to switch all the 3 axes, leading an extremely small team of 3 engineers solving for system resiliency and cloud efficiency at a SaaS fintech. As you'd expect, changing one of those 3 axes plays to your strengths and gets you early returns. Changing 2 makes it a bit harder. And changing all 3 definitely shakes things up a bit for a while. And it sure did. But the outcome was I was very happy. I was surrounded by leaders whom I could learn from. I was in an environment which focused on psychological safety, focused on learning and development, and it also openly practiced radical candor of giving feedback with curiosity and empathy. And as a result, I grew and drove strategic impact. I led 2 broad horizontal cross-functional programs across all of Stripe. One helped save Stripe millions of dollars in cloud costs, while the other helped reduce our end-to-end latency for Stripe's users by over 50%. And so my quest at that point was all about looking within and being self-aware, realizing that the only one who can drive your career is you. Yes, you. Sure, you can have a really good manager who will support you through the process, even help fill the gaps. But for the most part, you have to know what you want, what you need, and what you are willing to change. And that brings us to asking, what do I need? And this is where, as Robin called out earlier, it can take different forms. It can be about saying no. In fact, I recommend everybody spending 20 minutes to pick 3 things that you can say no to. Prep your boilerplate if it makes you feel guilty, so that you have the right language and the right balance of sincerity and firmness. It could also look like delegating scope, but with authority, and then being strategic about the impact you want to drive. It could be about building a support network or a manager Voltron whom you can lean into, learn from, or talk shop to help unblock yourself. And then you want to be the same for others. And lastly, just asking for help, the resources you need to be set up for success. And lastly, you want to create those feedback loops to reinforce your strengths, to adapt, and to be resilient to the change and the flux within and around you. And that brings me to my current act, where I strive to be the enabler and the amplifier, creating those systems of systems where others around me can thrive in the environments I foster and nurture, in a broader ecosystem which is full of constant change and growth. I today lead a group of over 100 talented Stripes, building a data platform which supports Stripe's global treasury and payments network. We power the user-centric products by providing the tools and the infrastructure to move, to store, to process, and to analyze data, both at rest and in motion. And we do this while guaranteeing data security, compliance regulation, and cost efficiency. And in this role, as a senior leader, I help create the systems of systems which provide that equitable access to opportunity for everyone around me. For example, I recently published the latest version of Stripe's engineering ladder to help promote transparency into progression at higher levels. Women are often over-mentored and under-sponsored, and so creating access to opportunity becomes very crucial, especially as you go higher. So I build my recall list such that when opportunities pop up, I can be that bridge connecting the right folk together, or even to just help signal boost a significant contribution. My network today consists of 3 buckets: folks whom I can help punch up, folks whom I can connect that first set with, and folks I can learn from who will help me punch up when I need to. And my hope with this is that as each of us unlocks that E, the exposure of the pie model for sustained success, we also pay it forward by being the sponsors, exponentially magnifying the effects for everyone who comes after us. Personally, I'm extremely grateful to all the managers and mentors along the way who saw that potential in me. And my very favorite one who said, "Smruti, define your job description." And so I asked myself, what are you optimizing for? And what would you like to optimize for? And for that, I picked joy. I picked joy in the problems I solve, in the people I solve them with, and in the systems that make it possible for a girl from a small, hustling suburb in Mumbai to become the woman who stands before this awesome audience today, who dreams big and who has found her wings. My journey in tech over the last 2 decades, folks, from being the doer and the conductor to evolving as the seeker, with my singular current principle being the force multiplier for the leverage I can provide to every underprivileged person around me. And with that, I leave you with, you are enough. You are whoever you choose to be. You are awesome and you belong. Thank you all. we're actively hiring at Stripe, so come join us.
Thank you so much, Smruti, for sharing your journey, for so many powerful tips, for so many examples. I really love the point that women sometimes are over mentored and under sponsored. So, yeah, we have so many positive comments here in the chat. I'm going to project some of them. You're awesome. Love your energy. You really filled our hearts with joy and such a really nice energy from you. I do relate to that, Nathalie. Thank you for sharing from
Thank you so
Sona.
much, Anna, for having me. This is an amazing audience. So thank you so much, everybody. Very inspired to be here.
So we got amazing here comments about your talk that was motivational and inspiring. And I'm sure many people have questions to you. So I thought you shared your Twitter, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Twitter,
So
LinkedIn, hook me up. And if you need advice, if you need a job, I am hiring. So come on over.
thank you, Smruti. Stay with us for the rest of the conference. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, folks. Take care.